Welcome to the podcast. Most people don't, but you do. Stories and conversations about the benefits received and the fulfillment enjoyed by doing what most people don't. This is Bart Berkey, CEO and founder of Most People Don't. We are a motivational storytelling company where we provide enabling tools to empower you to do what most people don't. Very excited today, and I want to make sure that I do justice to this introduction. Most people don't decide what they want to do for a career at age 11. Most people don't write a letter about the ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen at age 14. And finally, most people don't build legendary service brands, but Horst Schulze does. I am so excited. He is a legend in the industry. His teachings and visions have reshaped the concept of service and hospitality across industries. Mr. Schulze's professional life began more than 65 years ago as a server assistant in a German restaurant town. Throughout the years, he worked for both Hilton hotels and Hyatt hotels, but before becoming one of the founding members of the Ritz-Carlton Hotel Company in 1983. There, he created the operating and service standards that have become world famous. During his tenure at the Ritz-Carlton, Mr. Schulze provided leadership as the president and CEO responsible for the $2 billion operations company. It was under his leadership that the Ritz-Carlton Hotel Company became the first service-based company to be awarded the prestigious Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award twice. After he left Ritz-Carlton, he went on to found the Capella Group, a luxury hotel company, and he managed some of the most elite properties worldwide. It also gave him the opportunity to further define the luxury hotel industry. And of course, he has received countless awards and recognitions. This podcast would be 4 hours if I mentioned all of the awards and recognition that he has received, the leader in luxury, corporate hotelier of the world. But today, Mr. Schulze serves as the expert in residence at Arch & Tower, a boutique organizational strategy consulting firm. And he recently completed his first book called Excellence Wins. And we will share some contact details a little bit later on the podcast. But most importantly, a warm welcome, Mr. Schulze.
Nice to be with you, Bart. It's great. I was looking forward.
Thank you. I know you're a very busy gentleman. And after I read what your legendary bio and your experience is all about, the question is, what's next? What is next?
Oh, Bart, it will never stop. I'm not one that will ever retire. Let me make that clear. I'm involved with this small, I'm mentor to them, if you will, a small, but exceptionally fine group of young, smart people. It's really stunning what those young people do today. And they're a small consulting group with excellence. And I'm connected with them. I have an office with them, but I'm independently on several boards. I do consulting and I support them a little bit. I have several board jobs. I just retired from 2 of them, but I'm still involved in 6.
So you're keeping busy, right? Keeping busy and really still contributing, which...
Yeah, and the exciting thing to be on the board is you can contribute and you can keep on learning from smart people. Not all of them are smart, but most of them, not all.
I was very impressed, Horst, when I saw your indoctrination basically getting onto LinkedIn. And as soon as I saw that, 1, you received so many requests for connections, and 2, so many wonderful comments. And I just thought, here's a gentleman who is a little bit older than me. I'm not going to mention your age if that's okay, but here is someone that has done so many great things, right, into this career 65 years later. And he's now just getting onto LinkedIn, which I thought was just brilliant. And you saw the commentary. So the question, Horst, why get involved with LinkedIn now?
Again, I'm working with those young people and they couldn't stand it that I'm not LinkedIn. And so they connected me into it. And that's as simple as that. When the cell phone came out, I promised myself I will never have one. Pretty soon I had one. Then came BlackBerry, and I promised myself I will never have it. And then a few weeks later I had it anyway. And then iPhone, and then computer. And I promised me that I will not touch. Well, Here we are.
And what do you think about technology in our industry, in the hospitality industry? Do you think that it is a good thing, or does it take away from service?
That's the thing. As long as it supports hospitality, as long as it doesn't replace hospitality. But let's face it, in our business, it will more and more replace hospitality. This thing here, pretty soon you make a reservation of this thing. That's okay. Then you check into it. Okay, but there's no human being saying hello to you anymore. You walk to the elevator, you call the elevator, go to your room. Well, with other words, it will force with most existing brands will become sleeping commodities rather than places of hospitality. Now, if I go to a company like KYC, if hotel business and you don't look at that, something wrong. And I'm not an owner, I don't only KYC supports hospitality, supports to work efficiently without taking away from the customer, but supporting the customer. These are the things we have to look at today. Yes, technology is good if it is not replacing what is good for the customer.
I heard you give a speech, I guess this was 2019 at a leadership event, and you were referencing when you started and you had the vision to start your own company, to start Ritz-Carlton as a brand, that you were paying consultants to provide information on what the customers want.
Yeah. At the time, I, in fact, talked to all kinds of people. How can we get this information? And you couldn't do it. At the time, yes, early 80s, you could capture it for your own hotel. In the beginning, we did it manually, done in computer, but I wasn't able to then know in the next Ritz-Carlton what that customer's preferences are on. Yes, I was looking for that technology to better serve the customer. But today, unfortunately, everybody looks for technology is saying, how can I do it with less cost? And the intent of the customer is ignored.
Yeah, and so right now, so the intent of the customer is ignored. And again, back when you were starting and founding Ritz-Carlton, you were referencing, give the customers what they want. So now if customers want a keyless checkout or a remote or contactless check-in as an example, and if they want to be able to order their food without picking up the phone, and they want to schedule housekeeping without calling anyone, they just want to do it all online. Do you think that serves well for people that want to get into the hospitality industry?
Oh, sure. But at the same time, I have to question, and every step that I take, I have to say, if they use it, how do I make it easy, good, and of value to the customer, and of course to all concerned. If I ask myself that on every step, that's what it is. But how? And I have to still say, how can I be excellence relative to hospitality itself? This is what you're saying is serving the customer too. As long as I make every effort to do it excellent for the customer, as long as I don't do it just to save money by taking something away from the customer.
So it needs to enhance the experience. And I was listening to your background story about your first job and working with the maitre d', and it was an honor to have the maitre d' go to the table for the guest. The guest felt that I feel special because the maitre d' is coming to my table. Do you think that type of sense of honor still exists, that hotel guests will still want to be approached by ladies and gentlemen, by associates, by employees, by staff?
Here's the fascinating thing. I heard all the time, come on, here is saying everything will change, all the technology will change, anything. And everything will not change. What will not change is that human beings still want to be respected. Human beings still want that others are respectful and nice to them and honor them. That won't change. And that's the very thing which is hospitality, to give that and offer that in spite of the technology that supports that. And if I create technology, as you said before, support that and supports what the customer convenient in the mind of customer, what is convenience, I'm supporting that. But I'm not stepping away and create this technology. Come on, let's be honest. The technology of checking in with an iPhone is not done to help the customer. It's to save money on the front desk. Yeah, let's be honest about that. But if the customer wants it, I'm going to do it in a way that is superior to anybody else who does it in the view of the customer. That's what it is all about. It is being driven by customer expectation. Then it is fine.
Yeah. And it just, as you said that, it reminded me.
It's driven by saving money. Come on.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah, no, and I guess there's the business aspect of it. There's the cost aspect of it, but nothing is really going to be able to remove human interaction and the feeling that someone gets. And Horst, it's interesting, when I present to different groups, I might ask the audience a question of who won the Super Bowl within the last 3 years, or who won America's Got Talent the last 4 years. And people really don't remember that. But then when I ask them, could you name one of your elementary school teachers, what that person's name was, and how that person made you feel? And
Wow.
Every single hand goes up because of the human interaction, the experience. It's not trivial. It doesn't fade. It's memories that last a lifetime. So I have great appreciation for that.
I don't want to be misunderstood here. I'm not just doing it for the customer. The decisions, the decision as a leader on what I'm doing, including the technology which we're talking about, and you have to always ask yourself, is this good for all concerned? That's what the real leader does. Is it good for all concerned? Is it good for the customer? Is it good for the employee? Is it good for the investors? Is it good?
That's right. So that's a very high level approach at looking at it, because you're right. There's so many stakeholders involved. Yes, it's always about the customer, but does it make sense operationally from a cost perspective, from a financial perspective? Because even though hospitality is phenomenal and it creates feelings of excellence, it's still a business.
Oh, it's a business, and it has to be of value to all concerned. Every decision, once you're in a leadership role, if you ignore thinking about all your constituencies, there's something wrong with you, okay? Morally wrong with you. You think about all of them. And it's always, and look here, as you touched on my book, Excellence Wins. Excellence is never an accident. It's always a high intent in what you're doing, and high intent for all concerned. And of course, once that intent is there, it takes hard work to accomplish what your intent is. Clear. But it has to be high intent for all concerned. And if it's not, there is something morally wrong with you as a leader, my dear friends.
Yeah, that is such amazing, brilliant advice, yet simple, right? You would think that most great leaders would think about that way, but it's just incredible. Horst, I want to go back just briefly to when you started the idea, right? Your first job at 11 years old, growing up in a small town in Germany, understanding that your parents thought that you should take a more technical route because those were more honorable jobs. And then you had the influence of working at one of the best hotels in Germany, and then that influence of the maitre d'. Can you tell us a little bit about how that maitre d' influenced you for your career of 65 years?
Yeah, first of all, you touched on it. My dream of working in the hotel business was something very seen as very low class in a small town by my family too. But when I got into it, after I begged them for 3 years, and finally with 14 found a job in the best hotel in the region. Unfortunately, I had to leave the village, and I lived 100 kilometers away in the dorm room in the hotel. But the first day arrival in that hotel, first I talked to the general manager, who said, look here, you're servants here, don't be jealous. All our customers are very important, and you are not, literally. And then I talked to the maitre d', and he said, I want you to show up tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., but don't come to work. Come to be excellent in what you're doing. Now, that went over my head at the time. But as I worked there for the next few years, I learned slowly but surely what excellence is, because the maitre d' was a human being of excellence. And as the story goes, and I finally was supposed to write an essay for the hotel school, a typical German upbringing. Once a week, you go to the school of your métier. And the teacher asked, write a story now, what you now feel about your business that you're in, now that you're 2 years in it. I was actually 16 by that time. And I was going back to work. I see him working and approach a table that night. That's the point. And I realized, mind you, we were told we are servants and they're the important ladies and gentlemen. And they were important. And it was a great hotel. But I saw that the guests on that table that the maitre d' approached were proud that he came to them. And I realized this reversal. Wait a minute, why? And when I contemplated my essay that night, I decided to write about it. Because in this contemplation, I suddenly realized something I've never thought about it in my young life. That they were proud because he was excellent. Because he defined himself as a gentleman, exceptional gentleman. Wow. And I realized, wait a minute, it's in my hand to define myself, in everybody's hand. But that's particularly meaningful today when everybody looks for some other things, the government, to define them. Instead of, by the way, you don't define yourself as a person of excellence when you go on the street and throw Molotov cocktails and kick indoors. Mm-hmm. And then you look for others to define you as excellent. Now, wait a minute. That melody told me, you define yourself.
You define yourself as a person of excellence. That's the maitre d' and his family or relatives ever know how much of an influence that had, not only on you with your career, but then with regard to the brands that you built as a result? I'd like to give a shout out and a very big thanks to our sponsor for today's podcast episode. It is wishes.inc. Many people carry thoughts like, my small donation is not going to make a difference. I don't have enough money to help. People won't use the money wisely. These are stories. These are not truths. What this organization has created, wishes.inc, provides documentation and transparency showing you that every gift counts. You can literally see the impact. You can help instantly without red tape. And then generosity does not need to be complicated. It can be joyful, direct, and fulfilling. There's going to be a link to the website off of our show notes. But if you would like some more information, please go to wishes.inc.
No, unfortunately not. Unfortunately, I could never really go back to him and thank him. That would have been, I have talked to him in the meantime. I don't know if he heard me or not. Uh-huh. In fact, tell the story, when I came to San Francisco later, I had worked in the finest hotels in Europe. Now I worked in San Francisco as in room service leader. I wanted to be promoted to room service supervisor. So to go back to Europe with a career behind me, career step, and I knew I would get promoted because the manager was German and I was the best waiter there. But somebody else got promoted. It took me a while to recognize the other guy deserved it more. When I came to work in the morning, I wasn't only tired, I looked so tired. I went out the night before. When the manager asked for folding napkins, why me? Why not somebody else? The other guy never did that. He was always in time. When I realized that, I went and talked to my maitre d' again. Now he was dead. He didn't show up, don't worry. But I talked to him in my little furnished room in the Tenderloin district in San Francisco. I talked to him and I said, I'm sorry, I went to work. In fact, the last day when I left there and went on to work in Switzerland, he said, never remind you, Horst, never promise me you never go to work. You always go to work to create excellence. And I promised him, and I asked him to forgive me. I went to work. And I promised him it would never, ever happen again, that I would process myself, manage myself to always go to work for excellence. And from there on, my career took off like a rocket ship.
Wow. Amazing, amazing. And the aspect of ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen, it really touched me when I joined. I was with Ritz-Carlton for 16 years. And I will never forget my first job at hospitality was at a country club. And I was bussing tables. And this was at a time when people were allowed to smoke inside and indoors. And there was one country club member that asked me for an ashtray, and there was not one readily available. So she flicked her ashes at me, and then she flicked her lit cigarette at me. And I felt like a servant. I felt like nothing. I found her an ashtray. I had to go outside and walk around just to relax a little bit because I was so insulted. Yes, she had more money than me, but I was a person as well. So your whole point, and that what that Maître d' taught you, ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen, that I was a person too. And I was there to provide excellence. Even though I was a young high school kid, that has always just stayed with me. I grew up in Pittsburgh. I know you have ties back to the Hyatt Pittsburgh, but I did not grow up with money. So realizing that I could just be myself, no matter what I was doing in a luxury environment, if I had excellence in my heart, then I would be okay.
Yeah, my essay at the time, I named the ladies and gentlemen servant, ladies and gentlemen, and as I made the message of Ritz-Carlton, the motto of Ritz-Carlton. That means if we decide if we're excellent or not, if we're ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. We decide if we are ladies and gentlemen. We make the decision either, and when we establish that, in fact, in that case, when that lady did it, and if you still maintained excellence, you were the gentleman and she was no lady at all.
That's a really good point.
and that was my point, that he was respected as a special gentleman because he created that. And we can create that. And if we are not, then we created something different.
Yeah. And Horst, in your career, again, accomplishing amazing things, the question, I know in one of your messages that you reference your wife, Sherry, a lot, and I believe, is it 3 daughters that you have?
4, actually.
Oh, 4 daughters. How were you able to, and I love what you said about your wife, that you have made the decision to be in love with her 40 plus years later, that you don't just love her, but you made the decision to continue to be in love with her. So the question is, and I think that's a lovely statement, how were you able to maintain balance by your drive to do so well in business, yet having a very incredible wife and 4 children?
Yeah, what I try to generally establish there, that your destiny is the result of the right decisions in all, even in your marriage or in anything else. That is what I try to establish there. And of course, with us during my time in Ritz-Carlton, I was traveling about 250 days a year. And to maintain creates truly working on it, be deliberate with your wife as a team member to establish, do we do that? What do we do? What does it mean? How do we get through that? And create a true team effort where you trust and rely on me. I couldn't come back from a trip of, mind you may not remember, I opened every hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Coming trip from Asia when I was gone for 3 weeks, come in and change direction for the company. That's not how it works. Going back and say, how can I serve you now that I'm back? How can I serve you? How can I support you? It's those type of relationship of communicating right with your partner, in any partner, it doesn't matter. But it's again, that what did I do? What did we do? We established a high intent for our marriage. Once you establish your intent, in that moment, you are forced to find the answer for that intent. The only way you may not find it if you start making excuses, meaning not focusing on the intent. If you keep focus on the intent, you will find the answer. You keep finding the answer. The breakdown with everybody, they have a high idea, and then suddenly they find a reason why it cannot be done. And that happens because of our insecurity. If I have this reason in case I don't make it, I can always explain why I didn't make it. You have to dismiss the excuses because no reward lies in the excuse. It lies all in the accomplishment and intent. And even if you don't quite accomplish it, the journey toward the intent is what counts. That's what human beings are. That's where the things happen.
No, that's an incredible statement. So you were deliberate with your marriage, with your partnership. You would come home and almost as you would go to your hotels, you were saying, how can I help? How can I contribute? But when you went home, you would do the same thing with your family, right? How can I help? How can I contribute? And the last takeaway that I just had from that was with regard to intent. And there's a quote, and I can't remember exactly who says it, but it's, if the why is important enough, the how becomes easy.
Nietzsche.
Yeah, okay, Nietzsche. Yeah. Again, we're taking some incredible takeaways about life and about balance from Horst. And again, this is going to be great information for our listeners. It will go out to about 20,000 people right now. Just a few more questions, and I want to be extremely respectful of your time. When I first joined Ritz-Carlton, I became acutely aware of competition saying that people are like robots. It's like a cult because you have to say, ladies and gentlemen, you have to say, certainly, you need to say my pleasure. What is your response to that when you would hear even Capella, perhaps? It's like a cult. It's like robots. They're automated to say certain things. What do you think of that?
You showed that little card before.
Yes.
That was that everybody had to follow, which established who we are in a credo. It established our belief system and established also the gold standards, which were the non-negotiables of the company. And when I first created that card, the whole industry, everybody laughed. I was ridiculed on it. And internally too, I had actually notes when I came to work on my desk saying that it's ridiculous. What are we, a religion? No. We are an organization where every employee has a right to know and understand fully who we are and what we think and what our intent is and how to accomplish it. Everybody has the right to do that. And without properly communicating, how do they know they're right? That is really what it is. It is totally ridiculous to think we are not a cult, we're a business where every person has the right to belong and not just fulfill a function. The chair in which we're sitting is fulfilling a function, but we're all human beings who have the right to understand what we are part of and can contribute and understand it. And not just work, but be part of a vision which is established and this that we want to be the finest in the world. This has nothing to do with cult. This has to do with respecting every human being in the organization, that they have a right to be part of something. Now, if they accept that or not, is not the organization's business. The organization, if they're moral, offers every employee to understand that they can be part of something and not just work for something. Aristotle, 3,000 years ago, established that human beings need purpose and belonging. And that's what I try to give every employee, a purpose of becoming the finest in the world and belonging of a particular thought and efforts. So that's really what it is. And if you don't do that, you just want people to fulfill functions. That's what you want. That's what they hire people for, to fill a fund, not to be part of something. That's why the first day of orientation, every new hotel, I told them who we are and gave the orientation and said, here is who we are. Don't come to work here, but join us in a dream. My
purpose and belonging. You have and you have the right. And let me share with you the intent and the vision. And Horst, that leads to another question about, you had made the statement at a certain point when you had been with Hilton and you were with Hyatt, and a recruiter kept on calling you, and you had conversations with Sherry, your wife, and you said that you had the dream and you were allowed to create the finest hotel company in the world. Where did that dream come from?
It's very simple. I worked for a great company. I worked for Hyatt at the time. I was in charge of food and beverage operations for the whole United States. I loved the people I worked with, and then I get a job offer. And that I just simply said no to, but they kept on calling. So I went into conversation with my wife. And so and they said, look here, operationally, And there were some great people, cook at home, she called me. He said, operationally, this is your company. You can do what you want operationally. And of course, then I thought, what would I do if I went there? What would I really do? And I started dreaming of what I would do. And I started telling my wife, this is what I would do. I said, why would you even discuss that? Are you really interested? I said, no, but this is what I would do. And slowly this evolved in a thought that was controlling me. And I left my golden handcuff and wonderful people and a great company to move to Atlanta to a hotel company that had no hotels. They had none. But a little bit over a year later, we opened our first hotel, and the rest is history.
And for others that are listening, and you were able to pursue your dream, what advice would you give to others that have a dream that perhaps are not content in what they're doing? They feel like they don't have a purpose. What would your advice be?
Well, yeah. As long as you have a dream, for crying out loud, you shouldn't be working without vision. And then the presidents of company don't have a vision. What is leadership? Leadership means you're leading somebody to a certain place. Wait a minute. First of all, lead yourself somewhere. Where is it that you lead yourself to? Follow your dream. Don't be ridiculous. I cannot say my dream is to become president of America when I'm not born here. It would be ludicrous. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm not about having a dream, a beautiful dream, not an easy dream, a beautiful one. And say, I'm going after this dream, and then go on the journey. And as I said, the journey is really the thing. And go on a journey to your dream. What is your dream? What you're just working to fulfill a function, get a few bucks? Or do you see something higher? And don't remember, it's at work where you define yourself. Why not establish what you want to accomplish with your work? No, don't blame your bosses and so on. No, you are the leader of yourself. What will you accomplish? What's your dream? Have a dream and make sure it's beautiful.
Yeah, have a beautiful dream, not an easy dream.
That's
and
right.
Lead yourself somewhere, have intent, and enjoy
Intent,
the
high
journey.
intent, high intent.
High intent, and enjoy the journey.
Enjoy the journey.
Horst, you have experienced many incredible luxury hotels with different brands. Do you have a story about the most memorable, amazing service that was extended to you or your family?
Not one, there are too many, and it's not really fair, my stories. Of course, usually when I go to a hotel, and for many years, and I check into my room, for some reason, it smells like paint. Because people get ready for me, because they know who I am, they get ready for me. So my experience, I'm always worried. It's not, Bob Worman, who was my president in the last job, always said, if our guests could get the service we are getting, we would be the best in the world in no time. Yeah, unfortunately, that is true. Unfortunately, so my experiences are not the right one, but it's beautiful when you arrive somewhere with your children. People recognize your children. People make the room foolproof, or have a little toy there and recognize. That is more important. All those things, I have so many of those experiences, but of course.
Yeah. And it's lovely that you recognize that it's not fair. That was not a fair question. And apologies, I'm throwing out a couple ones that I thought would be interesting. But yeah, but for you to recognize that's not fair, because every room you went into smelled like paint because they were ready for you. And it perhaps was not the typical service or welcome that a regular, I don't want to say a regular guest, another guest would receive.
Yeah, if it's service stories, you have great ones happening every day. The other day, I went on Saturday morning and on my drive, I wanted to pick up the Wall Street Journal, and it wasn't there. And then an hour later, still was not there. This is the first time ever. So I called the Wall Street Journal, and guess what? I got a human being in no time. And I said, wow, this is amazing. And guess what? She was nice to me. She actually apologized. And she said, We take it off your bill. I said, that's not what I called. I just wanted to let you know. No, we take it off the bill. But besides that, we send tomorrow the Sunday paper to you also. And it's not necessary. But the next day I had the Sunday paper. And they take it off the bill. And guess what? An hour later, I had an apology note.
Wow.
Wow. The Wall Street Journal? You must be kidding me. So you still have moments when you get very impressed. And then the next one, you call, you're an hour on the telephone waiting to get through all the machines telling you where to prompt you, and then you make one mistake, you have to start all over again. It's in some cases you still get surprised of service.
Yeah. And the great thing is that one of the question was, who does it well outside of the hospitality world? And you answered my question without even me asking it. And the beauty is at least 20,000 people, and probably more when we share this podcast, will then understand Wall Street Journal did an outstanding job in exceeding customer expectations.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. At the same time, you have such bad experiences around where people absolutely clearly don't care. But you still run into this well done. And here it was all well done. The result was well done. Understanding that something goes wrong, first of all, you listen. Secondly, you have empathy. Thirdly, you apologize. They did all that. Then you correct, and then you delight. And they did it all.
Wow. Beautiful story. And of course, just a few more questions for you. Referencing leadership, and have heard great stories about if a hotel was not performing well with regard to their customer satisfaction, that there would be phone calls from you. And then at a certain point, if they didn't correct it, that you would actually move into the property. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about how that worked, and how did you balance respect, results, and perhaps even fear?
It came all together there. Yeah, nobody wanted me to move in, obviously. But at the same time, I made a decision that becoming the best in the world as a hotel company and being known as the best would serve everybody extremely well. It would serve the investors, the employee, the customer, and everybody else. Once I made that decision, I could not compromise on that decision. It didn't matter that a general manager didn't like me to move in, that they were upset, that their ego was bruised and so on. I wasn't there to serve that general manager. I was there to serve all concerned.
Wow.
So I had to move in and correct the situation. And I simply went in and met with each department and said, all right, let's study where we are on a scale of 1 to 10. Where is the gap? Let's fill it together.
Yeah.
What can I do for you? And I was able to correct the situation in a very short time because I mobilized all concerned.
And no compromise.
No compromise.
And mobilized all concerned, because it was bigger than you. It was bigger than the GM. It was bigger than the hotel's ladies and gentlemen or employees. It was involving so many contributors, and you can't compromise.
You have no right to compromise.
Yeah,
that doesn't mean you shouldn't be at all time be respectful and love all your people, but that doesn't mean for one or the other you love them and you're nice to them, even though they compromise negative for everybody else. Silly! I have no right to do that. I have no right to do that. I have to make sure we move toward the vision of the organization, which is good for all concerned. But the problem with leaders is they establish an objective for the company, but they don't even ask themselves, is this really good for everybody? Is this really good for everybody? But once I agonize through that and find the answer, this is of great value to everybody, in that moment, it's not about one or the other, it's about everybody, and I cannot compromise it. I have no right as a leader.
Yeah. And I think our listeners are going to get some incredible takeaways. I'm taking notes, and I typically don't take notes when I'm talking to someone, and I'm so glad this is recording and will be shared with so many people, because I'm writing down 3 or 4 word sentences, and I'm getting a very clear understanding of what I can do personally to become a better leader. And I just wrote down good for all concerned. That's certainly.
Often I heard somebody, I want to be nice to them. why do you want to be nice to somebody? Well, as a human being, you should want that, but at the same time, most of the time we do it not to really be nice to them so that they think highly of us. Selfish. That's not what it's all about. You're not running the company for you and your feelings about you. You're running the company for all concerned. And there has to be a constant driver in your mind.
Yeah. Horst, just probably two more questions for you. Had heard a little bit of messaging when you had a cancer scare and you had asked God for 15 more years. And at one point, and I think it's been over 27 years.
It's 27 years now, 27.
Yes. Yeah. So great blessings to you. I'm so glad because you still have so much more to contribute. Now, if we look at the next 15 years for Horst Schulze, what do you want to do for the next 15?
Contribute, keep on contributing, and keep on learning. That's the vision spilling. Keep on truly learning and truly contributing, and learn a little deeper. Not just the superficial stuff. Here's what has to be done, but understand a little bit deeper. And of course, sit down and say, what is the human being of excellence? And I try to, more than ever. There are many had many faults in that respect. Do not misunderstand me, but as you get to my age, you question yourself. And what is a human being of excellence? Let's think about that for a moment. Is if I do my very best in what my function is, in what I build, what I functionally do, but at the same time do my very best relationship-wise, and at the same time do my very best morally. You have to question yourself that, and I ask myself that a lot today. At the same time, do my very best spiritually. For me, the human being, that may not play a role with you.
No, I think, Horst, as you say that, do your best to be a good human being, to be a human being of excellence. There's, my phone is here somewhere, but there's an app that I have been using, and it goes along with Goldsmith, a great executive coach. And he references people that you don't need to get everything done today, but you need to take little steps to doing your best. And the funny thing is, and this is no joke, I get alerts several times a day on this through an app. And my goal is to be a better partner to my wife, to be a better son for my mother, to be a better dog owner, right? To be a better parent, to do my best. And those are just little reminders that I don't want to forget. If I called, like we ordered groceries for my mother today online, she lives in Pittsburgh still, and I called to make sure that she received them. I felt like I was doing a good job. I can't be there with my mother quite yet, but I felt like I was doing my best to be a good son, because I called her, I made sure she had food, I sent her a card last week, so things like that. So to be your best, to do your best, I think that's incredible.
This is an interesting thing that you should say. To wanting to do your best and have a thought about it is leadership. To remind yourself is management.
Wow.
This one is a function, the other one is a leadership thing. And it's a beautiful thing. And you have to manage yourself to be sure. Like when I talked to this Maitre D when I was, 24 years old, and said I'm an or 25 and apologized, I knew then I have to manage myself to follow that. So I wrote, for instance, on a mirror, go to work for excellence, where I shave every morning to remind myself. That is managing yourself. You have to manage yourself to accomplish your leadership thoughts and your vision thoughts. And that is that. And it doesn't go away. In all aspects, you have to look at, you do it, you said, in all those aspects, you set high good. And then you manage yourself to accomplish the high intent. That's really what it's all about. You said it, you explained everything very beautifully here.
Good. I'm learning from you, Horst. I'm learning from you. Thank you. The last question I did want to ask you, you shared a video, I think with a colleague, and it went on Facebook. And it was a message that was going out to hospitality people that perhaps lost their jobs or had reduced hours. And you said, this too will pass. Yeah. And I just want you to know the impact that it had on thousands, if not tens of thousands of people. You just referenced that there were times when you had lost your job And you said that people would try to encourage you, but you couldn't hear them.
Yeah.
Any other advice for people right now? And I know things are turning around, which we're very grateful for, but any more advice for people that perhaps still feel lost or have going through the interview process and have not landed back a job of excellence so they can be perfect and they can do well and have a purpose?
Well, again, it is the same. I cannot come with any other thoughts. This is difficult. And I've had so much feelings for the industry. I love the industry and my life. It's my life. And then I thought about all the people in the industry who are suffering. And so I want to give some kind of message. And of course, during that time, you recall the pits you were in sometimes, and you got out again. You look back, but when you look back, those were the true changes and moments of changes in your life. Of course, you don't know during the time, because this is when you new things in yourself, when you learn new things, when you set different directions. Those were usually directional moments. You don't know that at a moment, which led you to a better life and a better, fuller satisfaction and so on. But if you have a moment to sit back and say, and accept it, that you accept that you come out of it, and say, and then sit down and say, how do I want to come out of this? Where do I want to, with other words, develop your vision in yourself? Guys, you cannot live without vision. Don't just work, don't just suffer. See something, even do, and then keep on focus on that. No matter what happens, you fall down, you trip, you fall in the mud, stand up and see it again.
Keep moving forward. And it reminds me of a quote by, I believe, Sir Winston Churchill, that kites rise highest against the wind.
Not with it. That's it. Yes.
Right, against the wind. Winds have been furious, a lot of negativity, a lot of concern. But as you said, it's a time to identify your vision, take steps toward your vision, decide what you want to do, which is just, I think, a beautiful example.
It's similar to the Nietzsche quote earlier.
Yes.
A simpler start. Basically, that says too, if you have a good vision, it doesn't matter what situation you're in, and as long as you work toward that vision.
Horst, I cannot thank you enough. I have so many takeaways. I know our listeners, for most people, don't, but you do podcast, will have some great takeaways. I understand more now than before. I understand more about you as a human being of excellence. I understand more about the brands that you helped to create. I understand the impact that it has had on my life even more. I am so incredibly grateful. And I just wanted to conclude with how listeners can connect with you. Your website, HorstSchulze.com, HorstSchulze.com. Your book, Excellence Wins. I just looked at it last night on Amazon. I have it ordered. It's available wherever books can be purchased. And then there's more leadership content that can be purchased and viewed at Need to Lead, NED2TO lead.com, where content can be licensed for a larger audience. You are an amazing example of a person that does. Any final thoughts, Horst?
No, thank you. Thank you. It was nice being with you, and God bless all of you and your listeners. God bless you. That's it.
We can't wait to see what you're going to do for the next 15 years, or perhaps the next 50 years. Big expectations with your vision.
Yeah, but look, simply you said age. I'm not scared about mentioning my age. I'm 82, but I'm planning to be very active still the next 15 years. That's my vision.
We need you. Yeah, and you're moving right toward it, and we need you for sure.
Thank you.
Horst, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.